Good evening, everyone. I'm actually not a software engineer, but more or less a genetic engineer, so I hope this presentation is techy enough for you. You will probably learn a lot about laboratory technology.
First, you learn something about Jane.
Yes, it's probably.
There you go.
Just takes time, like research. Okay, I'm going to start with a few slides, just to show you what labfolder is about. So labfolder is actually software that manages laboratory data, teams, and now and more importantly, devices and everything that's basically in the lab environment. So our vision of the product is basically that it's a software that manages everything which happens in a lab: data, people, and devices. And before I talk long about what's like, I'm not going to talk about the business. I'm directly showing the product. It's available on the web, actually. So if you log in to labfolder, you basically have something which looks a bit familiar to the people that use Evernote. So you have a notebook where you can basically write down all your experiments, plan your experiments, upload data. For example, here I can just create a new entry, which is kind of the same as a page in your laboratory notebook. Can name some, whatever, experiment. Can upload data from my desktop or from other platforms such as Figshare. No, that's not nice. That's something nice. Well, it probably is not, it's not that blurry because it's a bad image, but it's because it's very small. So basically it's all about taking notes, collecting all your research, organizing your research, and it's also about collaborating because you can also, for example, this guy is the administrator of this group, can basically manage his group, manage teams, set roles and rights in this whole team. And actually, if you then look back to ULH, there's also about, you can basically communicate on your data. I don't know if there's this nice project where you see this, for example, here. Oh, that's the reason. So I basically filtered for. Basically, it's all the way you can basically, you can imagine it as kind of a research stream. So everything which happens in the lab is going into that stream. It's kind of like your Facebook stream, but you can filter it for dates, for experiments, tags, people that are doing it. And basically then you can communicate on data. So that's what it is like right now. We also have a dashboard for messaging in laboratories, and of course the whole thing is in a very complex and regulated environment. So it's not that you can use generic apps for this kind of work, because everything has to be signed digitally. You have to have a full audit trail on what's happening with those entries. For example, here you can look at the history and see, well, there's not much of a history, but for example, in that one, I think there's a lot of history here. So you basically have to control every step which happens in this entry, and also you have to be able to sign those things. For example, here, that's more of a gimmick that you can sign with a biometric signature, so like kind of a hand signature, but you also can use your system credentials to sign it. And also to witness it, because in laboratories it's usually that you do some kind of experiment, you document it, you have to record it, and then somebody else has to witness it for IP protection and stuff like that. But what's more important actually at the moment is that we are moving into like an era in research where all this documenting and all this recording of data, also planning of processes that happen in labs which are very complex, are being automated. So that's what we want to do with what we call at the moment as a lab store, where you can basically develop apps for the research space to integrate devices, products, other software, complex analytic software, which then basically all can take data from labfolder, process data, and play it back to labfolder. So we already started with this with some easy apps. For example, here we have Dropbox is not so much of a big example, but for example, Figshare, which is a sharing platform on the internet where you can basically publish unpublished research, and also can take unpublished research to, or not in journal published research, to further communicate on it. And that's like a, yes? Okay, time. Fine, yeah, this is what I'm going to talk about a bit more now, like just 1 minute, because so this is this lab store what we want to build, but what we are going to do is that we work together with device manufacturers, other partners, to connect these super high-tech devices with apps. So this balance, for example, that's not only going crazy when there's an earthquake on the other side of the globe, but it's also very intelligent. It basically tells the user what can you do with me. So if you are closer than 2 meters to this device, it tells you back off, because I have to wait something really important. And it's actually very complex to implement these devices, because they tell already about processes and also transmit data automatically. So I've been told. So as I said, I'm not a software engineer, but my developers told me that I can tell something about the challenges we are having, which is basically communicating apps and distributed web servers, because these apps are mostly not on our web server, but will be developed as standalone apps by our partners. Then also these processes I just quickly showed is all about basically you have graphs that you develop, and they're like forked processes, and they also have to be compared in some way. There's also a lot about not only helping the researcher to plan and to record their experiments, but also to do them by integrating the processes and instructions in lab glasses, or like Vuzix glasses. And of course, everything has to be very usable in a very regulated, complex environment. So these were the buzzwords I have been told to show here, and I hope some feel familiar with that. I have a slight knowledge about them, but that's maybe something you can give us feedback about when you see these challenges, if those buzzwords are the correct ones, right? And also, we are looking for developers. I think it's an interesting space we're operating in. It's all about tech. It's about biotech, life science tech, pharma tech, and of course a lot about high quality software engineering. Thanks. Questions?
You see the clients for you as buying this and setting up their own servers within their own intranets?
Say again?
You see your clients as being people who buy this for their labs and set it up within their own intranet?
Exactly. So we see both. We see people that use the cloud, but also we see people that set it up in their own intranet. For 2 reasons. First, of course, is data security, because it's very valuable related data. But also it's an economical reason, because sometimes you have just raw data that is like terabytes, it's like terabytes, and you don't want to upload this in the cloud because it just takes too long.
Yeah, about your signing feature, do you allow cryptographic signing of research data?
Actually, that's what I wanted to show, but it's like we create hash sounds for the entry, so that you can basically encrypt what the content. Did I answer your? Not really.
It's about cryptographic signing. You have a public key and you sign the data with your public key. You say that was me.
Yeah, that's what we do. It's like we create a hash somewhere. Yeah. Yes?
Over here. Hey. Yeah, so classically in the lab, I punch a lot of data into Excel,
Yeah.
you know, make tables to no end. And what I'm wondering, in your case now, it looks as if you basically have to upload these Excel files.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether you guys have sort of a table integration that I just punch them in there directly and then I work like in parallel on another file, or how do I do that?
Actually, you can drag and drop Excel files into labfolder, and then you can convert it into tables in labfolder. But you're also developing some kind of file container which you have locally, and then you can just drag and drop things in there, and then you have it accessible in your labfolder account.
Okay. Nice.
Question over here. Looks like a really useful product. It's really cool, thanks. But a lot of questions here, actually. Don't know where to start even. Can you tell us about the web app framework that you're using? It looks like Rails, but I'm not sure.
It's
The email workflows that you use, I'm sure there's got to be a lot of them. How you built those, your access control amongst all the users. There's got to be, you didn't just use Devise for that, I guess, right? Or the CK editor, or the editor you're using. Talk about that a little bit, please.
It's Java. Yeah,
okay.
Basically, and front-end JavaScript. So that's like most of what I know. Yeah. So as I said, I'm not the software engineer.
Okay, all right, no problem. Well, props
But
on
it's
using
like-
a graphing
it's mostly-
database. That's
it's
cool.
like mostly it's like the standard Java tech stack, and now we're complementing it with, for example, for these processes, we complementing it with graph databases, Neo4j.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good.
And in the front end, AngularJS. So this is like for the framework.
Okay, thanks.
I had one question, because to me it seemed a little like the kitchen sink, right? There's the dashboard, you have an app store, you can upload files, you're working on a Dropbox copy. So, like, what's the product process or product management process like? Where did you guys start? What's the one challenge you saw in a lab environment that like just got you to get up and say, hey, we need to fix this? I don't really, like, I was just curious to see what was the original pain point.
Yeah, honestly, because in like still 80% of all labs, they still use paper to record all this data. Yeah, and this data is simply lost. I mean, in the lab where I worked, where I did my PhD, you have shelves full of old laboratory notebooks, folders, and stuff like that, which contain just valuable data, and nobody's using it. Because nobody has, it's not accessible. That's where what put us after the software which is on the market. Yeah, all right. The software which is on the market is really from the 80s. It's not affordable for the standard laboratory. It's only for the big pharma companies that need companies that are 15 years on the market or something like that. So it's really the whole laboratory environment is still in the Stone Age. Yeah, but there are also special requirements which you have to meet basically to get into the space.
You can talk here after.
Yeah.
Give him a hand.